We've been talking about how drugs and alcohol affect our body. Can you tell me more about that?
I mean, alcohol really is one of the most common drugs used by adolescents, and it really is harmful to your body. It can hurt your organs inside as well as damage your brain. And it seems like it's probably a lot more dangerous for teens than it is adults.
It seems like a lot of parents and teachers keep telling us how dangerous it is for kids to drink. And you know, it seems like a lot of kids at my school don't think it's a big deal to drink and that everybody does it.
You know, like when you watch babies and toddlers grow, you know, it's obvious that their brain is developing. Number one, their head is getting bigger and they're learning to walk and then they learn to talk. And so it's obvious that their brain is developing. And we used to think like 20 years ago that once you got to be like your guys' age that it was pretty much through growing and that it was pretty much set. But now we know that well into your 20s that it's still developing. And so like when you're learning to drive, when you're doing new sports, when you're learning new subjects at school, your brain is continually developing.
I'm wondering, what does that have to do with drinking and drugs?
Well, your brain is kind of like a tree. You know, when you have a little tree and you let the branches just grow, none of them really are strong. But when a tree's growing, you kind of prune it and you keep it small and steady. It's a very strong. And so your brain is having all of these pathways through your nerves that are growing. And so constantly through your years when you're developing, it kind of prunes those and makes it so you have really good, strong connections. But imagine if you interrupt that with drugs or alcohol and you're not going to get that development. And when your brain develops, it starts at the back and goes to the front. And so the front part is where you have like impulse control and you make judgments, and that part is really the last part to develop. And so if you're disrupting that development with drugs or alcohol, you'll lose a time in your life that you'll never get back, and so you will never have that development.
What about grades?
Alcohol can have a big effect on your ability to do schoolwork and your grades. There's a part of your brain called the hippocampus, and it is real important for learning, memorizing, and developing those skills. And it's been shown, like in heavy drinkers, that it can be 10% smaller than in non-drinkers. And so that can really affect your ability to do like memory work, to learn new skills, even like in driving when you learn spatial skills, it can affect that.
You said that using alcohol can make decisions more difficult and impact our memory and learning.
Alcohol use by teenagers is very dangerous, and we've kind of gone over today the things that can happen. It can affect your memory, it can affect your decision making, and a lot of these changes are permanent. Also, it's important to know that teenagers who start drinking before they're 15 are 4 to 5 times more likely to have problems with alcohol than those teenagers that don't.
That makes sense. But what about the idea of sports? My coaches talk a lot about how alcohol can affect my performance. Some teams even have meetings about it.
Probably one of the reasons why you have those big sports meetings at school is so that the parents can be aware of problems. And with sports, it's also as important as learning, because your training can really be affected by alcohol. If you go out and drink, you can set your training back by 2 to 3 weeks. And so it really is harmful. So if you practice for, months and then go out drinking before a game, your training is basically shot for, the last 2 or 3 weeks aren't good. So it's real important that parents understand and you guys understand that it's not good for your sports, and you obviously wouldn't want to do anything that would harm your ability.
I never knew that doing this stuff could harm you athletically.
Okay, so think about this. You go out on a weekend and you drink, and then you try to learn something new for school for a test or a new play for your sport. You'll really be hurting yourself in 2 different ways. One is just in your brain and the memory, as well as your physical ability to do that play. There's new studies now that show like for 1 night of drinking, it'll affect you up to 3 days, and if you drink 2 nights in a row, it'll affect you up to 5 days. So you would really not be at your top performance